The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back for a special K4Wins, K4Wins.com. It is a Good Friday edition here as we get ready for a big Easter weekend. Along with all four of us, I'm Tony Kurre, sports radio for over 40 years. Gregory, he's been doing everything that comes to sports as far as gambling goes for sure on both sides. He's the man, Gregory, in the upper left-hand corner. Right below me is Kip Keefer, executive director of the Birmingham Racecourse Casino. And, of course, his son with the same last name, slightly younger, out in the bricks of Las Vegas. Getting out there, it's going to start getting a little warm out there in Las Vegas. Kip Keefer, he's the executive director and, of course, editor, any other title you want to put on him for the Las Vegas Sun. He owns the joint. He joins us right now on K4Wins. Let's start with our numbers last week. Kai, how'd we do?
Last week, 19-11. Overall, we are 362, 194, and 4. So 65.1%, which is pretty good. I got to know, first question is, Case, how much sleep have you gotten in the last 10 days?
Yes.
I'm pretty tired, but it comes with the territory. So
Case had a baby last week, so it's let people know what's going on. 1 week ago today.
Daughter, now 8 days old. She's slept pretty good the last 2 nights, so she's getting there. Been a lot easier than my son through the first week, to be honest. So we'll see if it keeps on that trajectory.
Well, you look like you're standing
just so you know, the girls don't stay easier.
Oh, yeah, I've been told.
It's amazing because you had one and mine just turned 13 a day later. So I'm kind of like, it's crazy, man. It goes by so flipping fast. So congratulations to you, my friend, and our thoughts and prayers. And hopefully she will not be colicky for you. You'll be good to go. Hey, I want to start with a little betting. A lot of people listen to the show. Info at TonyKurreRadio.net. Info at TonyKurreRadio.net if you got any email questions. And a lot of people love this show, not only because we give out all kinds of free plays at K4Wins.com. Of course, you can subscribe to the website, but also because you can learn some things on this show. And particularly since we're hitting at about a 66, 67, 68% clip, all four of us have been well steeped in gambling pretty much our entire lives, whether it's through playing, going through Vegas, or having friends of ours that have actually been in the industry. But I wanted to start with you, Case, real quick. Trends. I know trends, you'll see that word trend everywhere in gambling. I throw a lot of Tony Kurreisms out there. A lot of people consider that a trend. It's 11-3 trend, or if the weather's under 32 degrees in Major League Baseball, we have a trend. First of all, how much do you put into trends? Trends just basically what's happened in the past. How much do you put into those numbers for a future bet? I want to start there.
I feel bad that I answer a lot of these questions similarly, but to me, almost zero. And they're interesting. I'm not like one of these people that's going to yell like, "Oh, why are we even sharing this?" Or, like I'm a writer too. So there's a lot of times like in stories where I'll throw in like, "Oh, this series, the Golden Knights have lost 8 of the last 9 to the Jets," or whatever. That's not true. That's not happened. But I think it's worth talking about. It's worth pointing out. But really, it just has. I mean, almost always it's a small sample size, and more than ever in professional sports, like these teams just change, and college sports, these teams just change so much. It means absolutely nothing to me what happened even a year ago, when I feel like the whole setup is different. I mean, to me, it's more about what's going on right now. I mean, there are exceptions. Like if you had an exact thing, I could say what I think of it, but it's just not really the way I do things. I think when people first start betting maybe, or first start getting into this, it's something easy to latch onto and feeling like you have reasoning. But I don't know. I would dare anyone to go with trends too long, and you're probably going to lose money. I think you need to find a better way to do it. And to me, it's more about the here and now. Who's playing today? What's their value? How much do they add to ultimately winning, and how much do they not? So that's kind of how I do it. I don't hate trends, but not something I would handicap off of.
It's something, too, that I think we can find a lot of value in, particularly in Major League Baseball right now. We have the Atlanta Braves, obviously, a lot of people picking them to win just everything because they're a good squad. They're playing horribly right now. But you think to yourself, okay, they're 4-15, 4-7, whatever the record is. Maybe this is like buy low, sell high, stock market down a little bit on the Atlanta Braves. Maybe time to hop on board that train right now because they are 10, 11 games under 500. We certainly know they're not going to end up that way. I look at my Cincinnati Reds, who won, I think, 3 or 4 games in a row without scoring a run. They play in the smallest ballpark in Major League Baseball. The baseball is going to fly out. I have the over the 9 last night. It flew over. That's just a small ballpark. You're going to play that ballpark. Chances are it's going to go over. I wonder how often you look at those things where you look at small ballparks, you look at teams that quintessentially are always going to be above 500 or having a tough stretch. When do you hop on board that train?
Yeah, I'd say that's one cliche I definitely do subscribe to is the buy low, sell high. And you'll hear me say that or see me write it quite often. Really what that comes back to, though, is just having a strong sense of, baseball is a little different since there's 162 games to get to see so much. But I think it's so important to come into a season and know almost everything you can about a team, have a good chance of a good idea of their underlying statistical profile, and then just know that there's always going to be rocky ups and downs stretches of the season, especially from a futures perspective or even game to game. I'm a lot of times not going to be buying on the team that's won a bunch, that's getting all the discussion on TV, because you see that reflected in their price. I mean, people get fired up, catch on, and it drifts out. So, as far as the buy low, sell high, like stock market mentality, I mean, that's a lot with how I approach the problem on a day-by-day basis. Of course, it's not universal. There's always different things, but yeah, if you do like the Braves, for example, like as hard as it's been, I mean, they have a Strider came back this week. He looked pretty good, even though they had a loss in that game. And I know he was amazing in his tune-ups. They have Acuna coming back soon. They're probably, there's still some warts on these other teams. In the NL East, I will say the Mets have looked even better than I thought. I think they're getting a lot out of their pitching. The Mets kind of scare me now for the first time when I was down on them coming into the year. I don't think the Phillies are what they've been the last few years. Their pitching staff's getting older. Ultimately, I'm not scared of the Marlins or the Nationals. So yeah, to put that buy low, sell high thing into motion. I had a conversation with Kip. I don't know if we talked about it on here, but like anyone that's doing this by the numbers, it was impossible to come into the season and have the Braves anything less than the second best roster in baseball look like the second best team. And yeah, it's been 20 games, 19 games, and they look like a mess right now and not great. But I still fall back on what I came into the season, and I don't think it's a bad time to buy on the Braves right now. I just I still would expect them to make the playoffs or at least compete for that. I'm a little bit worried about the division now because I have been impressed by what the Mets are doing with Soto and Lindor getting off to their usual slow starts. I mean, those are two of the best players in the world. They're going to get hot too. The fact that they figured out the pitching, I'm a little scared of the Mets.
One final question. I talked to an old friend of mine who I used to work with, and so I said his name. I'm sure Kai would know who I'm talking about. Tony DeMarco, who left us years and years and years ago. But I asked Tony one time, I said, hey, tell me, how do you bet baseball? This is 15, 20 years ago. He goes, I really don't know anything about baseball. All I can tell you is it's very streaky. He said, you want to hop on board streaks. When a team's won 2 or 3 in a row, you stay on that team until it starts losing or starts winning. True?
I mean, again, not how I do things. I know people swear by that. I'm not saying it's a detriment or a I don't know the word I'm not saying it's not going to determine whether I bet on a team or not. I just like if you told me someone had won a bunch in a row right now, or even told me some records, I'd probably be taken aback. So I'm just not really looking at that day by day. I'm looking more at the pitchers, more at the projected lineups, and I'm just trying to get a win percentage on all these teams. I'm just doing it more strict probability, and there could be something said for that for bats heating up, but just not the way I do things. But I guess there's different approaches that can work, so that wouldn't totally poo-poo it. I know that's a popular strategy.
Local
people have to look at who you play also, because I mean, if Detroit goes 3-0 against the White Sox and they've won 3 in a row, and now they're going to Yankee Stadium, you might not want to take anything into account of those 3 games. So people need to look at who they're playing also, not just, hey, so and so's won so many games in a row.
Starting lineup's going to be going on tomorrow morning from 10:30, 11 o'clock right here on ABC 3340 local television. Of course, you can find that internationally on our YouTube channel. Just check up Kiefer and Kurre or the starting lineup. And Kip's got some great plays here for some futures and some NHLs. Before we do, though, I want to go back to Kai real quick. You do have our future numbers here for NBA, which starts in earnest tonight, our playing games. And, of course, the NHL playoffs start tomorrow. Give us some of those numbers that perhaps we'll be looking at later on this afternoon.
One of the things that really intrigues me the most is seeing Houston's future drop. They were plus 8,000 last week when we did the show. Now they're plus 5,000, but they're a dog in their series against the Warriors. I'm like, well,
that's amazing.
The Warriors are minus 85 in the series. Houston's plus 45, but their numbers to win the championship, dropped from 8,000 to 5,000.
Really interesting.
Not a lot of huge changes outside of that, but like Golden State dropped from plus 1,400 to plus 1,300. The Lakers were plus 1,400. Now you're getting only 925. That's a pretty significant drop, but also they didn't have to go for the play-in route. And I guess that was still up in question, last week, but it really wasn't. some of these matchups, I mean, like it really, really intrigued me seeing the Knicks minus 417 over the Pistons. I've already jumped on the Pistons in the series, plus that 272, just because I think that number's crazy. Now I get that the Knicks are allegedly the better team, but that to me, that one's just way out there crazy. Looking at that, but we can talk about all the series because I think there's going to be. I think you're going to see some lower seeds win in the first round.
Kip, let's go straight to the NHL a little bit. Let's shower everybody with all kinds of plays here. And of course, you got anything you really like, put it out there right now because that's what this show is all about. K4Wins.com. Go to K4Wins.com. It's a free site. There's no paywalls. There's none of that garbage on there. You're not going to be sent to some security Norton thing. It's K4Wins. It's the real deal. And of course, we're just nailing it all year long. One particular squad or one particular number you do love is the Tampa Bay and the NHL taking down the defending champion Florida squad in the NHL. Tell us how you've come up with that number and give us a couple of great plays for the NHL. And if you get some NBA stuff too, love to hear it as well.
Well, I think Case's counter to that. I think he likes the Panthers to bounce back. I just think the Panthers kind of limped down the stretch. They weren't the team without Tkachuk. That's like the Capitals losing Ovechkin. Tkachuk's supposed to be back for the playoffs, but he hasn't played in a couple months since the Canada, whatever they called that, the Battle of the Nations and all that. I just don't know how full strength that team's going to be. And I think the Lightning still have a stacked roster. That is such a big rivalry now between those two teams. That's going to be a war. That's going to be a great series. I can't wait to see it. The Lightning have a lot of incentive. They got swept last year in a first round series by the Panthers on their way to winning the cup. I just feel really good about where this Lightning team is right now and how they're playing. So I think they're going to take the Panthers out. One series, and I haven't heard really much, and maybe I'm just not listening to the right voices, but I'm really intrigued with the series in the West, St. Louis Blues and the Winnipeg Jets. People may not realize that since that nations battle, basically the Canada Cup deal, the NHL Cup or whatever it was, when the Americans and the Canadians squared off in the finals. This series is a rematch of the goaltending matchup in that particular series. Bennington for St. Louis, who was Team Canada's goalie, Hellebuck for Winnipeg, who was the United States goalie. They played twice in that tournament. Hellebuck won one of the games 2-1. Bennington won the championship game 3-2. Both guys were spectacular. These teams matched up last week in Winnipeg. The Blues, after that tournament, were the best record in the NHL down the stretch after a pretty abysmal first half. So they're riding high right now, playing great. Winnipeg is the number one seed in the West. The NHL has got a long history in the last 15 or 20 years of shocking upsets in the first round. I would not be shocked if Bennington wins this goaltending battle like he did in the finals, and the Blues come out. You're going to get a good number on that, and I think it's been fluctuating, so Case can give you more details, but I got my eye on that one. And I know this is a little bit of a homer pick, but went to a couple Golden Knights games out in Vegas when I was there last week. Everybody's healthy. Eichel's come back now. Hurdle's come back, who scored a goal on in a garbage game against Calgary on Tuesday night this week. They've got their full team assembled and ready to go, and they are just talent-wise much better than Minnesota, who got their best players back who'd been hurt for a couple of months. But once again, those guys were out for an extended period of time. I don't know how sharp they are. I don't think the Wild can match up with Vegas in personnel. Vegas a big favorite in that series, but I don't think they'll have any trouble dispatching the Minnesota Wild. There's a couple that really have my attention. So I just think some real intriguing matchups, and I know know a lot of people probably listen to this and say, well, I don't really like hockey, but I pointed out to you, Tony, yesterday that even if you're not a hockey fan, when you make a bet and have some good information, the money they pay you is the same money they pay you when you have a winning football bet. So put that aside. We've done really well on hockey on K4 and plan to do so during the playoffs.
Yeah, a couple nights ago, you go 3-0, 3-1 in the NBA. I think you had a 7-1 night or 6-1 night in the end. You're pretty much, and listen, I know a lot of times people will go, yeah, I went 4-2 in NHL, but the two losses were minus $1.80 and minus $1.90. It kind of evens out. So it depends on what you look like. You don't do that for the most part. We don't play any huge numbers around here.
I don't. Yeah, I know. If a team's 280, I don't even mention them. That's just
there's no doubt. And in some cases, you can't even find that number. You just have to play the puck line. Case, first of all, let's go back to that NBA game where you have some lines moving in one direction for the first series, but the overall championship series is kind of changing. Obviously, there are two different bets. So you got money coming on one side for a team early, then you got money going against them maybe late, or just the opposite. Explain how that works a little bit.
Well, futures wise, it's a little bit different, and it's why it's so important to shop is like it just varies a lot from book to book. If you're trying to draw like sweeping conclusions about like futures movement, I would recommend using like Circa or Bookmaker, some of the places taking the biggest bets in the world to see like who the actual sharp money on it. Otherwise, they're going to move a lot of these lines based on their own exposure and not getting too much liability on one side. That's why you can see some pretty big differences. I will say some of those teams that Ty mentioned, and Houston doesn't really fit into this because they were the number 2 seed no matter what. And I don't think Golden State's really a great matchup for them in the first round. But I do think that a lot of these teams' probabilities increased, rightfully so, once they got in that bottom draw of the bracket. By power ratings at the end of the season in the Western Conference, I mean, Oklahoma City is just like in a tier of its own efficiency-wise. They're so high, you wanted to not be on their side of the bracket no matter what. And then the second best team in the West, at least numbers-wise down the stretch, was the Clippers with the way they're defending and they have their offense back on track now. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, all of a sudden, after missing the last 3 years, looks like vintage form. And then you have the best player in the world, probably in the other, Jokic against the Clippers. So and it was all up in the air until the final day of the season of where everyone was going to be seated. So getting, especially the Clippers and the Thunder on the top half with the Nuggets too. I think you were naturally going to see teams like the Lakers and the Warriors, once they get in there, drift downwards, just because it's a little bit easier path to the Western Conference final. I'd say it's a lot easier to look at movement from a game by games perspective, just because you're not going to see as big of a price differences. I mean, most of these sports books are moving on air, truthfully. I mean, they're just looking at what's happening offshore. They're looking at what places are taking the big bets, and they're trying to get to the right number that way. So as far as movement, I think that's probably a little bit of the better way to look.
Kai, we got Miami, Atlanta, Dallas, Memphis, got playing games, the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs starting tomorrow. We're doing the show here on a Good Friday. Give me your thoughts on some things that it looks like, whoa, that looks like a good price there.
I mean, after what Atlanta did the other night in the playing game, how are they favored? I mean, I know it's at home. Miami looked really good. Atlanta did not. I mean, I've already bet Miami, allegedly, for entertainment purposes only. It's not. I mean, I like a lot of prices. I'm really interested to see, to hear the guys. I know, hey, we spent a lot of time on hockey, but still, seeing that the highest price that I saw right before we got on was minus 285 in hockey. And that was the Devils, the 3 seed, that are playing the 2 seed Hurricane, getting back plus 230. I was interested in that one, just to kind of see what the guys thought. And I did like their talk with the Lightning and the Panthers, where, 115, 105. But it's really the closest series, according to the betting experts out there. As far as, the NBA going, I already told you, I've played Detroit. I'll probably look at that, all during the series. But I do not think Houston is a good matchup for the Warriors. I might be one of the ones that is out of that. I would have felt more comfortable. My son's a huge Golden State fan. I would have felt more comfortable if they were playing the Lakers, believe it or not, than Houston. I think it's a better matchup because Luka does nothing against brain fart on against the defense of damn it, Jimmy Butler. Anyway, in my opinion, so I thought that was a much better matchup. And when they went to 2-7 versus getting into 3-6, didn't like that. Although I do like the Lakers against Minnesota.
Case, what's your thoughts on some playing games? And again, it's one thing you have to look at too. You mentioned in our text feed that Ja's banged up, and we've got several players. That's one thing you have to look at the end of the NBA season. Man, it seems like all these big time players are just banged up left and right. You want to find the healthy squads as well. It really plays into who you're going to be picking one way or another in the NBA playoffs. But give me some thoughts on those, and then give me some plays in the NHL. Go.
I'll just run down as many as I can. I guess I'm a little bit different tonight, although I guess Kai's for entertainment purposes only might have been the best things. It's just a small bet for me. I made the Hawks a 1.5 point favorite, and for a while they were, you can still get a +1. I bet Hawks, they're still a +1.5 too. I actually bet the Hawks +1.5 at home. I mean, I think it's basically a coin flip with the Heat. The Heat aren't very good either. They've got the last couple weeks, but personnel wise, offensively, I definitely like the Hawks more. So nothing too big there, but that's the only bet on the playing games tonight. As I took the Hawks +1.5. Memphis, I expect Ja to play. He said he's going to play, although he's listed questionable. It did seem like the injury was significant. Now mainly hanging at 6, 5.5 would be my buy point. I think I'd lay it with Memphis at 5.5. I think Dallas had like crazy top ceiling level offensive game to knock out the Kings. I mean, we're just making everything. They don't have that good of offensive weapons there. I think Memphis has the bodies inside to kind of match up with what they have inside, where they are strong with Lively and AD, of course. So I kind of expect the Grizzlies to move on there, but I'm going to be disciplined. I'm not quite laying 6. If we get to 5.5, which I think would have to be before Morant is announced in, then that would be a buy to me. Hockey-wise, super interesting. I think it's similar in the West and the East. There's absolutely zero question, no doubt. You ask anyone in hockey who has the most talented rosters in each side, it's who played in the Stanley Cup last year. It's Florida and Edmonton. It's not even close. But the big thing is they're both extremely banged up. I mean, all of their key players for both sides have not played down the stretch of the season. This is more art than science. But to me, I feel like Florida was being more cognizant of that and resting guys. I think Kachuk's going to be back. Like Kip said, they've even been resting Barkov a little bit. I mean, they just have such an embarrassment of riches on this roster after the trade deadline when they got Marchand and Seth Jones. And again, those guys haven't been playing, so I understand. A lot of their guys haven't been playing, so I understand being worried. But to me, I feel like they were just resting, getting ready for this. So I do lean Florida there. I will say also, just this is an aside, but the first 3 people I heard make Stanley Cup predictions on shows this week all picked Lightning Avalanche.
Yeah.
It's not something I'm betting off of or something, but I'm always a little bit like, how do we get these they're the 2 darlings right now, and I have no exposure to either of them futures wise. So that kind of made me smile. So it's not a strong opinion at all. I mean, Florida and Tampa Bay are 2 of the best teams, but Florida's roster to me, if they're anywhere close to full strength, would be hard to go against. And then on the flip side of that, Edmonton is the opposite. I think they have an even better roster, but I think these injuries are legitimate. I mean, they were fighting for home ice and they couldn't have these guys play. Matthias Ekholm, their best defenseman, is now officially out the entire playoffs. Stuart Skinner, their goalie's back, but he's kind of shaky either way. I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl are both banged up. I think they're going to play probably the 2 best players in the world, but not at 100%. They torture the Kings every year, beat them in this round, but
4 straight.
Yeah, to me, this feels like a straight coin flip, and I actually bet the Kings +110. I'm really worried about the Oilers injury wise. I think it sucks for them. As I think they take I always love to rally around these teams that just, quote, can't get it done and are chokers in the playoffs. I think it's kind of been unfair to Edmonton. I always felt like they'd break through one of these years, and I honestly thought it'd be this year. I thought this was their best team, but I just look at their injury situation. It's tough for me to and I could change my opinion. If it's
Sure.
different, if they look great in the first round, then there's a good chance I pick them to come out of the West. But right now, they're just so banged up, and I'm more worried about their injuries than Florida's. So I've actually bet the Kings. Like I said, I bet Florida -115. Injuries have so much to do with all this. Luckily, I didn't. I got so long-winded on the NFL draft, which I bet just a ton this year on the starting lineup, that I never got around to talking about the NHL. But I was going to give out one play that I absolutely loved in the first round. But I filmed it, I think Wednesday. I filmed it Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night. the Stars plays, and their best player, Jason Robertson, got hurt.
Yep.
And it seems like he's going to be out for the plus. I love the Stars plus 115 against Colorado. I don't understand the Avalanche love. I mean, that they traded for Mackenzie Blackwood, the Sharks goalie, who's been great, but I still don't fully trust him. I thought top end talent. This was even. I just thought the Stars were the better team, so I did bet them. So I'm stuck on a bad number now because Robertson is out, and this went from Colorado about minus 125 in the series to minus 155. And I kind of think the Avalanche win now without Robertson. So and like I said, injury is so big, and I do agree with Kip's point. The Golden Knights are kind of on the opposite side of that. For once, they seem like they have everyone healthy. It seems like it should set up well against them for Minnesota. Minnesota's gotten healthy too, but they just haven't looked like they've gotten their chemistry back from early in the season. So I did bet some Golden Knights minus 190 in the series. I do think it's gone up. I wouldn't go anything under 225. I think is probably okay. But that's another one that I think you just got to be fluid. You got to change your opinion, because if Minnesota at the beginning of the year was probably better than the Golden Knights. If they get back to that level, like this could be an upset too. The West, I honestly think you can make a case for all 8 teams in the West. I think Kip and I had this conversation, but I think the West is really wide open. I did end up opposite of Kip on the Winnipeg one too. I bet Winnipeg only because it opened minus 180 at one of the big domestic sports books. I took a trip across the border to Arizona because we don't have it here in Nevada to bet Winnipeg minus 180.
Nice.
I thought that was a terrible number. I thought they should be like 225, the same as the Golden Knights, and it now has gotten up to that. That being said, I do think the Blues are tough. They're playing well. I actually bet them in game 1. Like that just shows it's all about numbers wise and probabilities. I bet St. Louis plus 165 in game 1, but ultimately I think Winnipeg probably gets it done. Another guy that's kind of known as a choker and can't get it done in the playoffs is Connor Hellebuck, but he's had a historic goalie season. If you're looking for a way to bet on Winnipeg, I might have to take another trip across Arizona because the best number is there too. But I think if they get it done, if they win the West, if they win the Stanley Cup, it's going to be because they ride a Hellebuck heater, and you can get him at 18-1 to win the Conn Smythe, which is the playoff MVP. Winnipeg's like as high as 10-1 to win the Stanley Cup, which I don't think is bad in its own right, because I'm higher on them now with Dallas's injuries and with being a little skeptical of Colorado. But if you want to bet Winnipeg, just find a way to bet Hellebuck, Conn Smythe, because in my opinion, that's the way it's going to happen. So yeah, that's about all the West series. Carolina, New Jersey is interesting to me. New Jersey's going to have their best defenseman, Dougie Hamilton, coming back. I think Kai asked about this one. This is one I actually don't have a bet on. I'm closer to New Jersey, but I don't know. In my heart of hearts, I have a tough time seeing them beat Carolina here. Carolina usually every year is like the hot team at the end of the year. Everyone's
not this year.
Yeah, everyone's picking them to win the Stanley Cup. Their underlying numbers are so good. I kind of like that it's totally different this year, and everyone is skeptical of them. I think on paper they're just as good as anyone. Their goalies are really struggling right now, but goalies are like voodoo. Just things can flip so quickly. I mean, look at just the last few years. Like Sergei Bobrovsky got the Panthers to the Stanley Cup in back-to-back years. Before those 2 playoff runs, it looked like this contract was an albatross. It looked like they were paying for past production, that he was past his prime. He wasn't going to be anything. I mean, the Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup on the back of Aiden Hill, who was a backup for the San Jose Sharks, a historically bad team. He had awful numbers. So I just feel like it can flip so quickly. And as far as forwards and skating talent, there's not many teams I like better than Carolina. New Jersey's still without its best player, Jack Hughes. So numbers wise, I am closer to New Jersey. So maybe this is a close series, but I really, really think Carolina at least gets to the Eastern Conference Final. I like them way better than Washington. I think Washington might even have their hands full with Montreal. Speaking of goaltending problems, since Logan Thompson went down, Washington hasn't been the same in goal, and I think there might be a little more signal than noise to that one, just because if Thompson's not 100%, I don't trust Lindgren as much as I trust like Kochekov with Carolina. I guess since I've touched on every series now, just last one, Toronto and Ottawa, and I know Kip and I agreed on this one. I like Toronto. I laid minus 170. Pretty big bet. I tried to bet even more and got the spinning wheel and said I could only get so much, but yeah, I think it sets up well for the Maple Leafs for once. They've gotten good goalie play, good defensive play all year. The offense hasn't been that great, but you just look at the guys they have up there with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner. I feel like they probably handle Ottawa, although this is another one where I bet Ottawa in game 1. I got a plus 150. I thought it was too high. I think it might be tight, low event. So maybe now if you want to bet Toronto, see what happens in game 1, hope they lose and then come back on them. But then I just think Florida and Tampa Bay is going to be like 6 or 7 games. It's going to be so taxing. But I feel like Toronto with home ice advantage will be in a good spot after that. So I kind of like Toronto. And if you're looking for, I love the Conn Smythe market, as you can notice. I already mentioned Hellebuck for Winnipeg. If I make that trip to Arizona, another guy I'll be betting is Austin Matthews. I think he's 18-1. I just think that's way too high. I mean, probably the second or third best offensive player in the world. There's a good chance if they make a deep run, he's going to lead the playoffs in scoring. So if you want a way to back the Maple Leafs, maybe better than just straight futures, bet Austin Matthews to win the Conn Smythe.
Just when I think I've got everything covered up and I go like ready for the weekend, it's Easter weekend. I don't want to be on my phone making bets and stuff. I got the kids and we're chasing eggs. Case comes on and gives me like 17 more things I have to look at because I do not want to, because I know he's so good. I do not want to miss out on any of these plays. So I'm writing things down as quickly as you're talking about them. Kip, any final thoughts for the weekend?
Well, I'm glad Case mentioned Toronto because I left them out when I was waxing poetic before. I think they're the strongest first-round bet. That's going to be a real emotional series, too. Anytime Canadian teams play each other in the playoffs, it's just a fever pitch. This is Ottawa, the capital of Canada, against Toronto, the largest city. So this is going to be a big deal. But I think Toronto is really well positioned. And I mentioned St. Louis had the best record since the All-Star break. Toronto has the second best record in the second half of the season. I really like where the Maple Leafs are, and they haven't made a run in so long. They had this awful streak of losing their first round series for like 8 or 9 straight years. They finally busted that last year. I think the Maple Leafs are really there's your word, Tony, trending in the right direction. And baseball, we haven't really mentioned. The Dodgers and Padres have been exactly the same and fattening up with everybody they play in their respective home stadiums. The one time all year, both those teams went on the road. They're a little shaky. Well, they're both on the road this weekend in Texas. The Dodgers are at the Texas Rangers. The Padres are at the Houston Astros. I say both of these high-flying NL West teams lose 2 out of 3 this weekend. And my other best bet for baseball this weekend, Case mentioned the Giants a couple of weeks ago. They were flying under the radar. I've been paying close attention. They battled the Phillies tooth and nail. That was a great series this week earlier. They are in Anaheim to play the Angels. Look for a sweep by the San Francisco Giants this weekend against the Angels.
Hey, while you're talking about it, since you talked about trends and hot streaks, who are the 3 hottest teams in baseball right now? One of them's easy.
The Padres.
They were 5-1 last week. But what 2 other teams went 5-1 last week? One of them was going to blow your mind, but
Athletics
it comes into play. Do what?
Yeah,
Athletics.
Arizona was 5-1 last week.
Yep.
And Seattle.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Because the A's won a bunch of games against the White Sox. So,
hey, 144 games to go. Who knows what's going to happen?
Oh, man.
Seattle was playing my Reds, too. All right, Kai, any
That may be why I brought it up.
Yeah. Any last thoughts? We got a minute to go, Kai. Anything you got?
No, I mean, great things. I will say that while Case was talking, I picked up my phone and placed like 3 for entertainment purposes only. Wagers on what he was talking about.
What do they pay you for those entertainment?
Screw entertainment. This ain't for entertainment purposes anyway. This is to make some serious jack is what it is. This is mortgage payment money here. This is what I'm talking about. Guys, thank you so much. K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. Have yourself a wonderful Easter. And, of course, check out our website. It changes just because of what you're hearing today doesn't mean it couldn't be totally different tomorrow. That's why you need to go to K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com, free website. Check it out. Happy Easter, boys. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.